It might be the time of year where a break is in order, but we don't roll that way on this show. The Jump, presented by Hungry Jack's. The burgers are better at Hungry Jack's. Kane Pittman on hand, soon to be joined by Andrew Gazey, who will respond to a Nick Kyrgios-Barb, a Hall of Fame nomination, and a Dewap Wreath dominant display. But first, our opening tip. And you may have realised that I did not mention Trevor Gleeson. That's because he's left us. After a few very strong weeks on the Jump, it has been announced that he's joined the Milwaukee Bucks coaching staff. Here's our own Adrian Wojnarowski with the news. Announced by Adrian Griffin at the pre-game press conference before a game against the Brooklyn Nets this morning. Trevor Gleeson, the resume we do not need to repeat. He's been a 5-time title-winning NBL head coach. He's been with the Toronto Raptors the last few years with Adrian Griffin. And now he's back in the NBA. And Gazey, we're obviously very happy for Trevor Gleeson, but this is sad news for us here on this show. He was just starting to warm up and give you a whole heap of rubbish week in, week out.
No, it is disappointing that he won't be joining us here on the Jump, but congratulations to him. It's a fantastic opportunity for him to continue his NBA journey, and he's a high-quality coach. The fact that he demanded that we show the 5 trophies alongside him on his departure, you know, perhaps his ego was getting a little bit ahead of him, so we had to move him aside. But he's a superstar, much wanted coach. Every vacancy that's come up over the last 18 months, he's the first coach on the list for any team trying to seek a new head coaching job. And you look at the resume there on the screen, it's outstanding. The 5 NBA championships. He also has international experience. He was an assistant coach with Andre Lamanis at the Rio Olympic Games. So his experience has been tremendous, the success he's had, and you can easily understand why Adrian Griffin and the Milwaukee Bucks wanted him to be a part of their program.
And there might be a few NBL teams that'll be disappointed that Trevor Gleeson wasn't joining them for this season, but he was contracted by the Toronto Raptors through the end of this year. He'd spoken about that before on this show. The one thing I would say is I don't think that this is going to change Trevor Gleeson's opportunities in the NBL if the NBA doesn't work out long term. So it still feels like this is a perfect scenario because, by the way, this is a Milwaukee Bucks team that has title ambitions. So he might be in a deep playoff run to trying to get himself now an NBA ring.
Yeah, that's right, Kane. And I reckon, though, as much as I'm sure he's still got that itch he wants to scratch as far as being the head coach and the success that he's had here. He's always going to have people knocking on his door. But I reckon the incentives to remain in the NBA
Yes.
might just make it a little tough for NBL teams to compete to get his services.
And it was exactly why he was hanging out, and he said he was going to be patient and see what offers came his way. No shortage of news this week, though, Gazey. The Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. There's 2 Australians in the hall right now, Lindsay Gaze and Lauren Jackson, and we did see the nominees announced for this year's class. The enshrinement ceremony will be in August. Yourself, Andrew Gaze, and Penny Taylor, Michelle Timms, 3 legends of the game in Australia. You've been to Springfield. You've seen your dad that is in the Basketball Hall of Fame. How does the nomination feel, and what's the first things that come to your mind? Because this is a place that means a lot to the family.
Of course, and it's an incredible honour just to be nominated. And I was there, like you mentioned, when my dad got inducted, and just to be surrounded by the history in that joint is quite extraordinary. But with Michelle Timms and Penny Taylor,
Yes.
Wouldn't it be great if we all could get there? It'd be fantastic to share it with them. I think that they might be a few runs just ahead of me on the pecking order, on the basis that they clink when they walk. There's a bit of metal sort of that can come together that suggests that they've had some incredible achievements. So they're fantastic nominations, both of those. I'm sure that both of them will get in at some stage in the future, and it's an incredible honour to be considered alongside those 2 great Aussies, and with many other very, very significant contributions to this great game.
Well, Gazey, there's no surprise that you went the modest path. So what we're going to do now is bring up your accomplishments along the way, and this is a resume that stacks up along with anyone, so there's no need to be modest here. You should be in the Hall of Fame as far as I'm concerned, and I hope that you do get there. You can respond to that, Gazey, but I do want to ask you, what do you think about when you think about the night, the weekend, when Lindsay was put into the Hall of Fame not so long ago?
Yeah, it was incredible. It was a few years ago now. I was there with my mum and my sister. We all went over for the ceremony. And like I said, when you actually go into the Springfield Hall of Fame and you see all the names and the way in which it's presented, it's quite humbling to be surrounded by such greatness and the way in which they recognise the stars of the past. And, my dad and Lauren, who are already in there, two Australians that absolutely deserve to be in there. And I'm sure as we move on in the history of Australian basketball, we've seen how quickly it's been able to evolve in this country. There's going to be many more that are going to be worthy of a contribution and being acknowledged in the way in which the Hall of Fame does do it.
August 16 is that ceremony later this year, so we'll see across the board, just absolutely stacked with some of the legends of the game in this year's nominees. You're one of those, Gazey, and one thing that we do like to do around here is we respect legends of the game, whether that be as players or coaches or when they're commentating, Gazey. And I did see a tweet come across the interwebs over the last few days, and Nick Kyrgios, a very well-known sportsman in Australia, had this to say: as you were working on Christmas Day, the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix and the Tassie Jack Jumpers, and he wasn't too happy with the objectivity, he said, with the call. Now, this is not something new. We see this all the time. And I spoke to Trevor Gleeson earlier today, and the one thing I said to Trev is, hey, you would be very familiar with this because you get that every time you call Perth Wildcats games. So what is your thoughts on the tweet? Because I know you've been asked about it.
Well, first and foremost, I love Nick's passion for the sport, whether it's the NBA or the NBL. He's invested into the NBL. And it's great to have people of his profile and his sporting achievements to have a great love for the game. So I've got tremendous respect for his passion for it. And I think that when you have that passion, and particularly you align yourself with the club, you might hear things a little bit differently. And I think that we always try to be objective. I think his history of the NBL may not be all that deep, because to use the basis that Melbourne United hanging my jersey from the rafter would be an explanation for why, in his judgment, that I have a bias. I think anyone that knows the history of the Melbourne Tigers and Melbourne United would probably raise their eyebrows at that. But that's really not the point. I think that when you're commentating, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. There's going to be some people that like what you say, some people that don't like what you say, some people that enjoy what you bring to the table where others don't. And clearly Nick's not a fan of mine, and that's disappointing. It's hurtful a little in that he sort of raised some questions of my integrity, but I think, and I justify it in that this is a guy that's really, really passionate about his team, and hopefully he remains that way, and I wish him and the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix nothing but the best. The good news is, for me, because I am a little sensitive when it comes to these things, that it's not a view that's held by many people within the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix organisation.
Oh, well said, Gazey. And Nick Kyrgios did join the ownership group back in January. But I mentioned they had a big win on Christmas Day, and it was an upset win, and it was a surprise win to many.
Yeah.
Even though Mitch Creek did say that the commentators, the media heads, every single person under the comment section, they're not too happy with the Phoenix. He said it's a gutsy win. Not even a Christmas miracle, it's just the absolute base of what we can achieve. So here's the thing. I love this about the Phoenix, and they've been this way since day one, Gazey. They have set the bar for their own expectations, and they have not been afraid to say what they expect and where they think they can achieve. But the reality is they're 67 and 71 in their history. They've made the playoffs once. So when I see that the base level, well, they need to be at a higher level more regularly, and they will get more of those comments. So I'm not sure if I follow that logic there.
No, I can understand Mitch as well. And, after they lost two games in a row by club record margins. So you can understand why some of the commentators would be questioning it. I know our very own Leonard Copeland said that he thought that they'd struggle to win their next 5 games. Now, they've clearly beaten that with that win over Tasmania. There you see the record after a decent season. They've had some challenges. Will Cummings got released recently. And Mitch Creek, their very best player, and in fact an MVP candidate. He is having an unbelievable season. 19 points a game, shooting at 51%. And get this, 46% from the three-point line, 6.5 rebounds, 6 assists. So I think when any team loses a player of that capacity, along with the other injuries, like with Craig Moller, he's out for the season. In that game against Tasmania, Ruben Tarangi goes down. So they've had some challenges, and I don't think it's unreasonable for commentators to be questioning where they're at and what might happen. Now, there's some very good excuses why they have had some challenges, and it was an incredible gutsy win. They only shot it at 33% from the field against the Tasmanian Jack Jumpers, away from home against a championship contending team, and to come away with a win in that atmosphere on Christmas Day was just a real gutsy performance, and it showed in their rebound. They dominated the boards, and when you think of those hustle categories, those effort categories, that was really one of the most significant factors to their win, because they shot the ball poorly from the field, and Gary Brown stepped up in a big way with his 20 points, and he's going to have to continue to that. I believe that that Mitch will be back for their next game coming up, so that's going to be against the Brisbane Bullets, so that's going to be an important addition, because it's hard to see them doing too much and making too much of a noise, or even making the playoffs if Mitch is not there.
And it is the type of performance that does raise the bar and make you expect better things from this team more consistently. So we'll see how they roll on. But now it's time to shift gears to the Boomers. DeWatt Reith and Dante Exum, they're putting together excellent NBA campaigns in Portland and Dallas so far. What does it mean for the national team? We dive in when the jump continues next. Welcome back into The Jump, presented by Hungry Jacks. DeWatt Reith continued his impressive start to his NBA career on Wednesday morning, pouring in a career-high 25 points on 9 for 15 shooting as the Blazers topped the Kings 130-117. Reith knocked down 3 triples, collected 9 boards, and for good measure, the young Blazers picked up just win number 8 on the season. Here's the post-game reaction from Portland.
I think we just came out with a lot of energy. From the start of the game, I think that it just came out like fully focused, so that really helped us tonight.
You almost had a double-double, 25 and 9. That's a career high in points. How were you able to dominate the paint like you did on both ends?
Hey, man, just shout out to the squad, man. All I had to do was just finish over there. They set me up really well, so shout out to the team.
Yeah, our bench was incredible tonight, man. And our benches, to be honest, they've been so good most of the year. But tonight, obviously, was an exceptional night with Wap having, his career high in points and rebounds. I just thought he was so focused and locked in. I've been on him, about needing some rebounds, and being better defensively. And also, I'm telling him, if you're not shooting when you're out there, I don't know what advantage you give us. You got to see what you got. You got to be out there shooting it. When you get an opportunity, you got to shoot it. And so he took full advantage of it. I thought he was incredible tonight. He gave us an option, and they tried to pack the paint on us, throwing it back. They played in that drop coverage, and he hurt them.
Head coach Chauncey Billups on a big performance from DeWatt Reith. We'll bring back in Andrew Gaze. Billups did joke after the game, career-high 25 points, career-high 9 rebounds, and an equal career-high 0 assists. But look, this has been a really, really impressive stuff from DeWatt Reith so far, Gazey.
No, it's been fantastic. He's come in, he's signed as a two-way option for them. So they were just sort of trying to feel him out to see if he'll fit. But I think that two-way category may not last too long, because he has been extraordinary. Yeah, 8 points. And I think in those comments by Chauncey Billups is about his rebounding is something that we've also seen with the Australian team. For his size and athleticism, just a bit more of a concerted effort on the glass. He's only been averaging the 3 rebounds per game with the Portland Trailblazers, but right there, that's his strength. He can knock down the 3 ball. He was extraordinary. Shot it over 70% from the 3-point line with the Australian team during the World Cup. And as you heard from Chauncey as well, that's what he brings to the table. He can spread the floor, and then the drop defense, he can shoot it. So good on him, and I think that we're going to see him solidify his spot in the NBA based on what he's done over the last 10 games.
And Chauncey did speak about the aggressiveness, which is exactly what you just pointed to. And I remember speaking to DeWatt Reith during Summer League, and he said, I'm going to get into the NBA if I run the floor and I rebound, which is exactly what Billups was talking about. But the shooting aggression, in some of those highlights, we're seeing DeWatt Reith, yes, shoot the 3, but he's putting the ball on the floor. He's finishing with his left hand. We haven't seen this type of aggressiveness. So how does that help the Boomers moving forward if you get this version of confident DeWatt Reith?
Well, he brings so much to the table, and if he could just continue to grow as far as his rebounding, then, you know, he has the potential to be a very significant piece right now for the Portland Trailblazers. It's ironic down there. You look at the other Blazer in that category, Arvydas Sabonis. Well, he played against his son in that game against Sacramento, and I think what also is helping his cause, he was banging with him. Sabonis, one of the better players in the entire NBA right now, and the defensive work that Duop Reath did on him would also have stuck out for the coaches, because at that end of the floor, they need some help as well. So, you know, he's a important piece, but outside of all those characteristics we talk about Duop Reath, it's this, Kane, it's that shooting that's really going to hold him in good stead as he moves forward.
36% from three so far in the NBA. I did mention this to Trevor Gleeson last week, but I'm curious how you fit or how you see this. Jock Landale, 151 minutes in the NBA so far this year, 305 for Duop Reath. So he's getting double the court time over the season so far. What does that mean in the big picture? Because we know coming into the World Cup, there was a lot of talk about how much minutes and how much game time Boomers were getting.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these guys, even with someone like Duop, it's being in the right place at the right time where you get the opportunity to showcase your skill. And now with what we've seen with Duop Reath, he's only getting that opportunity because of the injuries injury to Robert Williams in particular. And it's hard to compare how it's going to look for the Boomers because of your playing time. You know, Jock Landale has come into a Houston team where we thought he'd get a little bit more playing time. He's getting to play, but it's a very much a backup type role. And as such, the numbers can look a little skewed. But you look at what Jock Landale has been able to do over the years, particularly during that Tokyo Olympics campaign. He's going to be a part of the Boomers program. But what a great situation is for Brian Goorjian now to have both Jock and Duop Reath available. And both of them can stretch the floor. And both of them are really good athletic when you're trying to play that up-tempo style of play in both offensive, defensive transition. They're both really good.
Yeah, continuing a long line of dominant Australian bigs, but from one standout Boomer to another. Dante Exum's career best run continues. Exum has now scored double digits in 8 straight games where he's been active. We know he brings the defense, but it's the improved outside shot that continues to impress. Exum knocking down a sizzling 55% from long range in that stretch, playing next to Luka Doncic. So much so, the Mavs head coach Jason Kidd has stated that Exum will stay in the starting lineup moving forward, even when Kyrie Irving returns to the floor. The move would unleash a 3-guard lineup in Dallas as we bring back in Andrew Gaze. Yeah. And the one thing that we've seen Dante Exum do playing alongside Luka, he's getting wide open threes and he's knocking them down. Playing alongside Luka and Kyrie, maybe the touches won't be there, but the open shots should be.
No, well, I think they will, because you're looking at two guys that are really good at getting to the rim and requires people to help. It's very hard to guard Luka in a one-on-one situation. You say the same thing about Kyrie. You need help and you need people that can knock down the shot. And that's always been the big take on Dante. Even when he was drafted by the Utah Jazz, could he develop his 3-ball? Well, he's knocking him down at an incredible rate. The last 10 games, he's averaging 15 points a game, over 50% from the 3-point line. And a lot of that's because of the attention that goes to Luka. So I think that the offense has been great. No one would have thought that in 10-game stretch he'd be averaging 15, almost 16 points a game. But it's what he's also doing at the other end that sort of gets a little undersold right now, because he's been so good with the offense. In a lot of those games that I've watched him play, he's had some massive defensive assignments and looked really good. So he is playing incredibly well. And what a turnaround. Many people thought that his NBA dream, he'd lived it and it was over. But going there, going to Europe, playing with some big high-profile teams. The last team he played with at Partizan in Serbia, and to now get his chance. And I reckon a lot of these opportunities got with the Mavericks was because of the incredible work he was doing at both Tokyo and at the World Cup. He was impressive at both when pulling on a green and gold jersey. And
what does that mean for Josh Green? Maybe we'll save that conversation for next time. But coaches complaining about refs. A story as old as time. Does Golden State Warriors head coach Steve Kerr have a point? Do defenses stand a chance in modern-day basketball? Gazey responds next on The Jump.
I have a problem with the way we are legislating defense out of the game. That's what we're doing in the NBA. The way we're teaching the officials, we're just enabling players to BS their way to the foul line. If I were a fan, I wouldn't have wanted to watch the second half of that game. It was disgusting. It was just, just baiting refs into the calls, but the refs have to make those calls because that's how they're taught.
Welcome back to The Jump, presented by Hungry Jacks. The Denver Nuggets top the Golden State Warriors 120-114 on Christmas Day. And Steve Kerr, if he's not angry at the DJs, he's angry at the refs. He's been a little bit grumpy of late. Nikola Jokic, 26 points in this game, 18 of 18 from the free throw line. You're a scorer. The greatest scorer in Australian basketball history. Surely you're not on Steve Kerr's side.
No, I am on this one. I think in a broader sense, you only have to look at the scoring that teams are doing these days, the protection that they providing the offense. And this is something that over the years that the NBA have gone different ways. If you go back to the 80s and even the 90s, it was brutal. You'd be seeing games in the 80s quite regularly. Nowadays, with the desire to get more scoring, the protection that players have when going to the rim is probably overcorrected. The balance is not right. You always want to have a reasonable balance between the offense and the defense. Right now, it's so heavily skewed in favour of the offense. You're getting a lot of free throws. And let's be honest, free throws down the stretch when there's a lot of pressure on, they can be interesting. But by and large, sitting back watching free throw shooting competition, that's not a whole lot of fun. Now, we don't, Steve might have exaggerated a little, but on a broader sense, I think he's right. And I think that the officials and the way in which the points of emphasis that the NBA want to put on making decisions might need a review.
Well, Nikola Jokic, 19th in the league for free throw attempts. And what I'm taking from that is Andrew Gaze would have averaged 30 plus if it was these types of officials when he was playing. Kendrick Perkins, what do you say?
A foul. And over the last couple of weeks, a lot of Steve Kerr comments have been foul. Matter of fact, they've been making my damn skin crawl when I think about it. Number one, if you're going to call out something, don't hide behind subliminals. Put an address on it. You were talking about Jokic and his 18 free throws because 18 of his 26 points came from the free throw line last night. That's number one. And number two, Jokic is one of the most high IQ players the game has ever seen. I played with a great player in Paul Pierce that when he didn't have it going offensively, his shots wasn't falling, he got to the free throw line. Secondly, I'm going to take a line from Finesse 2 times. It's cool when they do it. It's a problem when I do it. When Golden State was making their runs and winning championships with KD, without KD, and calls were going their way, everything was fine and dandy. Now, Steve Kerr, do you really want to go back to the old school rules? Because that might hurt your offense. Do you really want to go back to old school hand checking, stopping progress, holding up Steph Curry, getting physical with Klay Thompson? Do you really want that? Or do you want to address the problem at hand last night? That Steph Curry was 7 for 21, Klay Thompson 3 for 13. That was the real problem. Address that. It was nothing wrong with that game last night.
Kendrick Perkins, his skin is crawling. Is there anything to his wider point that the Warriors are now losing a few more games and that's why they're grumpy overall?
Not in my view. I think, Steve, and it's hard when you're making comments on the back of a game that you've lost.
Yes.
But I think that he's talking about a more broader view of the game and the way in which the points of emphasis that the NBA prioritise. And I think that it's, I can understand where Kendrick's coming from because he's right. If you're going to have a more closely, a game that's called a little looser, then they may disadvantage it. But this is not something that just happened right now. This is something that's been going on over the past decade. So it's not a recent trend.
Gazey, yet again, you've carried me through a show, and this time it was just the two of us, but it's hard to believe there's still more to come on The Jump, including the continuation of a wild NBL 24 season. We've got the top plays of round 12 coming up next. Spoiler alert, it'll be worth the wait. The jump rolls on, and while Andrew Gazey might have left us, we've still got plenty more for you at home. The NBL schedule has been hectic of late, which means this week's editions of Top Plays presented by Hungry Jacks are going to be fun.
Set up a Rocco screen, the lob threat, the lane just opens up for him and shows off the bunnies. Still time for Cairns. Miller's been aggressive this fourth quarter, and he does it again. That's going to help. And then right here, just too much time and space, and didn't establish that position. Doyle one way, then the other. What a pass for Magnay.
Here's another look at it. Beautiful pocket pass, and as you see, no help defense whatsoever. That's Abdel Nader. Needs to be on the split line, near the bucket, ready to help out, and Magnay.
A loss for the Tassie Jack Jumpers on Christmas, but they continue to be in the mix for a top 2 spot. And moving ahead to round 13 of the NBL, they'll face the New Zealand Breakers. That's going to be one of the games of the round. That's going to do it for today's episode of The Jump. Thanks to Andrew Gazey, of course. And congratulations once again to Trevor Gleeson. He's back in the NBA. Bad news for us, great news for him. And we look forward to seeing you again next Thursday.